I think so many people think that there's always just this one thing in barbecue that just automatically makes barbecue perfect. And I get so sick and tired of people searching for that instead of searching inside and making themselves a better cook or better at the whole game of barbecue.
You can blame a pandemic. You can blame the economy. You can blame the prices of brisket. But if people make outstanding food, people can't deny it.
Where's your damn cleaner? This is the intro.
We're with Jordan Jackson and Jimmy Daniel. Guys, howdy. Thanks for taking time out of your day to come chat with us. What were you guys doing today?
Do you really want to ask?
Yeah. That's a loaded question.
Day in the life.
Jordan has picked up a bunch of skill sets. He's been cutting boards for a product for Workhorse. Came down to help me push a dump truck with a machine out of a mud hole.
Mm-hmm.
What else he done? Hung a sign. Hung a shipping and receiving metal sign.
Big one. Just a big one. Yeah.
And
I changed air brakes on the dump truck the other day.
Yeah, he did. He always likes to say, I'm a barbecue cook and teacher. I'm like, well, expand your knowledge.
Yeah, this hat was clean.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, it was. It's got the weird Georgia mountain rock dust on it.
So,
but Nick, he's got a pile of them down there on the floor. You could wear any of the new ones.
No doubt. But, they get broke in, and they fit you a certain way after a while that, whether it's dirty or sweaty, you gotta rock it. So you guys are a dynamic duo now. There's a lot going on from Quetorials to the fact that, Jordan, I've known Jordan a long time, everybody.
Since 2007, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, in 2017, Jordan was number 4 on the Texas Monthly Top 50 list. You've gone from there to changing the air brakes on a dump truck.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a super interesting
air chambers, to be exact.
Oh,
now, when you were doing that, did you have somebody standing over your shoulder looking at the intricate details of how you are handling those brake pads?
It was not the pads. It's this weird big, it's like a big diaphragm inside this loaded, I don't know. It's this big ball thing. And JD was like, hey, can you change the air chambers out? I'm like, here's a video. I'm like, what's an air chamber?
Our old head of transportation's moved into the shop. So Gary knows about it, but he needed, Jordan's help. And then I kind of didn't tell him everything. It's a really dangerous, it can blow up.
Yeah, it was very dangerous. And I found that out afterwards.
We put a new one on.
Yeah. I tried to take it down to this place and they're like, no, we don't want it. And we actually don't want it in here because they're dangerous. I'm like, oh, I'm just sitting here holding a bomb, man. He's like, pretty much.
Yeah, unless you take it apart. It's fine if you don't take it apart.
So you're learning how to change brakes via YouTube, much like people are learning how to cook barbecue via YouTube now.
Right.
And
I'm
you
a
guys
backyard brake changer.
And you guys are putting out content to teach not only backyard guys, but even pitmasters how to use pits like Primitive Pits and Workhorse pits.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try to fill in the blanks from Top 50 to Cleveland, Georgia, sitting in the studio now with Mr. Jimmy Daniel, who is the owner of Primitive Pits and Workhorse Pits. And you guys are doing instructional videos, and you guys are getting ready to open a barbecue joint out there too. So
soonish.
Let's connect those dots. How did you guys get hooked up?
Well, I'll tell you from the standpoint of the short story.
This is going to be long.
It's the 8-minute version. So, I had a restaurant, sold a restaurant, moved north up towards the mountains in a city, Coal Mountain Cumming area. And I was going to open up another restaurant. And my father-in-law, who'd helped me build the pits before that, had told me he wasn't going to ever help build a pit. But I had people that had always just asked me, hey, can you, what about these pits here that you had? And so I sold them all. and got rid of them. Within a couple weeks, people called me and said, I want pits. So we started Primitive Pits 11 years ago. And I intentionally got into the business of building pits, not as a business. I was okay with the income I had, and I just decided I was going to do it because there was a huge loophole, I guess is a good word for it, but information is what I signed up for. I signed up to help people, start a restaurant. You had the Franklin boom in 2009, 10, and there was this gap of knowledge, but yet people were ambitious and they were fascinated by it. So we started as a content company. I started making videos early on and teaching people just the basics of fire management, just understanding how to operate the pit. And then it kind of moved into a little bit deeper consulting. And then I wanted to build a backyard pit because same thing, these guys buy a backyard pit and they don't know how to use it. I mean, there's people who've been cooking for 20 years plus, like myself, who just kept making bad barbecue until they really committed on making good barbecue. So along my trips down to deliver Primitive Pits, I would stop in as soon as I got to Texas and do a little bathroom break and usually figure out it's about 12 hours to Longview. Usually figure out where I'm going to stay. So I'd usually stay in Longview or in Marshall or somewhere. And then one day I just kind of looked on my phone and I looked around at some places and I realized that Bodacious was a chain. I said, I'm just going to stop in here. And I stopped in and Jordan and Roland were in there and I just ate some barbecue, which when you're in the barbecue business, you don't do very much, but you want to go in Texas and you really want to experience the Texas thing. And I was really planning on going down to, ironic, first time I ever went down to deliver a pit, the very first place I stopped, Pecan Lodge.
Really?
I think it's Pecan Lodge.
Pecan Lodge.
People ask us that all the time. And I always tell them
what's the right answer?
Well, I mean, it honestly depends on what part of the country you're from. But I always tell people that a pecan is something you use in a boat if you can't get to the shore.
There you go. So I stopped in Bodacious and I met Jordan. We had a talk there. They were closing, and we just were looking at these pits, the Bewleys. They're just, Roland has a lot of history with them, and I started to realize that they were taking tools and use them the very best that they could to put out the food that I ate. So I gave him a second chance coming through, and yet Jordan and I talked and I think I stayed longer that time afterwards.
Dude, you brought cameras in and you gave me a Primitive hat. I'm like, I think this guy's trying to sell me pits.
I wasn't.
And he didn't. He never tried. I'm like,
I just was interested in the whole, the first 10 employees we hired, I used to tell them, I said, we're a content company. We're trying to teach people how to cook barbecue in the backyard or at that point, the restaurant.
Right.
And they always tried to connect the dots. And those guys are still down there. The dots got connected when I told them, I said, the information is way more important than the pit. We happen to build a great pit. We just need a good, stable vessel. That's it. But if you come in here and you've got somebody else's pit and you need help, as long as it functions the way that you're not going to be frustrated, then that's what we're here to do. So Jordan and I built the relationship. Then I went to see him over in Gladewater. More Bewleys, more completely different contraptions, and I just was fascinated by it. And then we just started talking, and I put it in my mind that I wanted to have somebody teaching in place of me because of time capacity, and that's where things started to really ramp up. I really didn't have an interest in Jordan being involved in the restaurant until I realized I don't have the time to train people. In the past, I had time. Now I have none, and I trust them. So it comes down to just 100%. I trust him. Even having him here the last year and a half, he's phenomenal at whatever he does. I'm not joking. Put him on QC and stuff. He does it the way we're supposed to do it. And we just care about people learning, what to do more than what to have. That's it in a nutshell. So then when we started talking about the restaurant, we had a different location. I started sending pictures of the mountains. And
dude, this seed was planted like 4 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago.
And it's funny, Nick planted a seed in me 2 years. He needed me for a job, and it took 2 years to get to that point, I think. There was one day I went over and ate with you, and you needed me for the job I did, but it was like 2 years before I feel like that it ever came to fruition.
Yeah, that's about right. And we had talked about a bunch of other ideas too. I mean, we
Right.
dream about restaurants and concepts and
Right.
and things that are a void that need to get filled out there in the world. And it's fun to just talk about those things and dream about them, and whether or not any of it ever actually happens. Like, I love talking about it just in general, but yeah, the help that I needed from you was something that was a pivotal moment for Stanley's to make some really big changes. And so, yeah, we talked about it for a while before you could make it. And I guess, were you there for almost a year?
I think a year and a half. Year and a half. It was, but then I went to Arnes's for 3 months
That's right.
too. There was that. It's always weird, like these moments, like being with him and then being back working with you. They were years in the making. None of it was just nothing just happened, which is really cool. I like it when it happens that way, where it's well thought out and not just, oh, I need you. Come on. It's happening. No, you put a lot of thought into it. He and I have been talking about this for, man, I've been at Franklin's for like 2 years.
We met at, I came in town and we sat down in the lobby of the hotel, or I think we did, or we went somewhere.
We're outside, I think.
Yeah.
Just
we're
sitting on a tailgate for hours.
I think it's important in barbecue. I love barbecue. You know, I've been around it my whole life. And I think it's important when you open up a restaurant, you know, if you go become a doctor, you're going to go and you're going to get the formal medical training, but you're going to go and you're going to apprentice a residency for 4 or 5 years, you know, before somebody says, here's a scalpel, and they're going to shut the door. And I think that is such a huge issue with barbecue joints that don't succeed. And you can blame, throw in an excuse. You can blame a pandemic. You can blame the economy. You can blame the prices of brisket. But if people make outstanding food, people can't deny it. People are going to drive in, spend their hard-earned money. And I think that starts with having the nucleus of a really great team in the pit room.
Right.
And if you can do that, and that's what we try to do when people call us, we want to buy a pit. I used to vet them out till 2019. I answered the phones.
Dude, that was one of the reasons like I fell in love with wanting to do this project, because you told me a guy called and he wanted to buy a primitive, but he wanted it to be an ornamental pit out front and just use a gasper in the back. And you said, I'm not selling you this pit. I'm like, that's the dude right there.
I used to vet people out. They would call and I'd say, well, what kind of cooking experience? Oh, I've cooked a couple times on a backyard pit. I'm like, listen, the pit's not going to help you. You're going to have to really understand the game of the ergonomics of the kitchen, the pit room, the business, the entrepreneurial side. I heard somebody say the other day on a podcast, Pinkerton, and he said, you got to be a great entrepreneur. And, you know, you got to be a great entrepreneur, but you got to have a great palate. And, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to be able to execute how you can get your pit room to work to where customers get an experience that's great. Because if not, you're competing with the mid-level guys, and there's there's very little room.
And the hospitality.
And it's like anything. You could have, I could have the greatest, most expensive drum kit that you can buy, but that doesn't make me a great drummer. So you could have a primitive pit in your pit room, but if you don't know what to do, it's not going to matter.
Well, if you have a bad pit that doesn't cook well, it's almost impossible to overcome that without a tremendous amount of work
and frustration.
I met a customer one time, and he was so hyper focused on tallow, and he just kept saying the word tallow. You put it on there, blah, blah, blah. And I said, if you cook a really shitty brisket and you put tallow on it, what do you have? And he goes, I don't know. I said, a really shitty brisket with tallow on it. It doesn't mean anything. It's just an ingredient. It's no different than salt or pepper or whatever. I was like, quit talking to me about tallow, dude. And he's like, oh, I understand now. I was like, it doesn't make things better just because it's tallow. And I think so many people think that there's always just this one thing in barbecue that just automatically makes barbecue perfect. And I get so sick and tired of people searching for that instead of searching inside and making themselves a better cook or better at the whole game of barbecue.
Well, you can blame Franklin because
Nick, do you do the tallow? Do you add tallow?
No.
I mean, I've seen this trend recently, and I personally I don't understand outside of just making the brisket look good for social media or for a photo.
Right.
There's no other reason. I don't see any other reason than that. You know, if you cook one properly, you get that when you cut into it. You don't have to.
it's rendered in there and it comes out. Yeah.
To me, it's like if you have a salad with a vinaigrette on it, which is made with oil and vinegar, and then you're like, you know what this salad needs? It needs some more oil on top of it. And you just sprinkle more oil.
Mhm.
That's what it does.
I think it comes from the whole barbecue has always been in my family's lives and our lives. We grew up in, the corner of East Tennessee, so it's definitely not the barbecue capital of the world, but we cooked it. But I think what happened, in my opinion, is in 2009 or 10 when Franklin, when Daniel Vaughn started writing about him in his own vlog and then went to Texas Monthly, it really imploded the whole scene of barbecue. And you had so many people wanting to open up restaurants. I can sit there and look at the top 50 and probably there's 30 in there that were inspired by Franklin, but he made it seem so simple and nobody believed what he was doing was the simple intuition and instinctual cooking.
Right.
That's what made him great.
And his
instead, they
methods.
were looking at the pit and how would the baffle look like, and if he poured tallow, and if he wrapped it in butcher paper, and then flipped it upside down and patted it twice. There was the gimmicks that jumped into this thing that made it so much harder. And
people hyper focus on that stuff, like one single little aspect of it. They
times
think
and temperatures and probes in every corner of the meat. When you just learn to cook, you really are learning to cook with just feel, instinctual.
Well, if Wayne were here right now, which hopefully he'll be here soon. I mean, he talks about this a lot, about how it homogenized the process. It created a standard piece of equipment, the 1,000 gallon, in a process that everyone was trying to duplicate, like you just said.
No, I mean, it created a blueprint that essentially everybody followed after that.
Yeah.
And that made it really hard to distinguish one place.
When I went to Franklin, I had a huge learning curve with the way I cooked because I didn't cook anything like that place. I made sure we did nothing like Franklin at Moberly. We did absolutely nothing that they did in Central Texas I wanted in that barbecue place. And I wanted it like that on purpose because I wanted East Texas to be, I wanted to shine. I wanted it to have its own flavor profile. I mean, Roland had already worked so hard, and JD Stanley had worked so hard on a way that East Texas tasted. You have kept Stanley so involved with the way JD did some of the processes, and I think that's just amazing. And I tried to do that with the way Roland was doing stuff and honor how hard he had worked for so long. And I didn't want my food to taste like a normal Central Texas barbecue experience. I wanted Central Texas to have their own experience.
Right.
And I wanted East Texas to have something,
Mm-hmm.
the sweetness that we have on ribs and stuff. And the brisket has a little bit more of a dynamic seasoning blend to it. And the sauces are different and sauce heavy.
Kind of that little bayou mixed in.
Yeah, we had a little bit of the East Tech or the West Louisiana kind of crossed over in our culture, and I love all those.
Heck
things.
yeah!
I talked about that a lot when people ask what influence. I had one of my grandfathers lived in East Texas on Toledo Bend Lake, and when we talk about what influenced this, and being with the restaurant opening in Dallas, I never felt like I had to adhere to any particular style. But I was influenced by his style of cooking and what that was like in East Texas. And you guys hit the nail on the head. It's influenced heavily by the food in Louisiana and the heavier spices and all that kind of stuff. It's just a completely different style from Central Texas altogether, and it's important. I think it's important for those things to be distinct.
So what people really don't understand about East Texas barbecue is a lot of it stemmed from Dallas. Like Roland was inspired by Sonny Bryant and all those guys in Dallas, and he took that and made his own version of it in East Texas. And a lot of that style, to me, Dallas was more of East Texas flavors to me. And that's really cool because it's kind of, for us being 2 hours away, it's kind of East Texas still. And when people say North Texas and Dallas, I just don't feel that way. I feel like it's part of East Texas because it's only 2.5 hours from Louisiana, right? Or 3?
Yeah, less than 3, probably.
Yeah, Texas, that's like driving an inch on a map.
If you drive the way Nick drives, you can get there in about 2 hours and 10 minutes.
So
are you saying that I drive slow? I'm just trying to get some clarity here.
Like for me personally, I just would get why I don't go eat barbecue is if you go to Central Texas, you will taste 50 versions of the exact same brisket. Every single person will have the wet ribs like they do at Franklin's. They'll have a version of this. And then you start seeing these people taking it outside of Texas and are mimicking that exact flavor. And it's like, use part of your own local culture and incorporate that into whatever you're trying to do. Use the technique, but add your own flavor and spin to it. And people aren't doing that. And you're just making the exact same brisket over and over and over. And it drives me freaking bonkers, man.
Okay. So you guys are talking about opening a joint in Cleveland, Georgia. So how are you going to incorporate that into what you guys
are? Central Texas barbecue. What are you talking about?
Well, I brought Jordan in so I really like the idea of the centered around grilling from my restaurant because I felt like barbecue in Georgia, in North Carolina, and most around the Southeast, barbecue is a dinner food. But I like the grilling part of it. I like the whole meat. I don't even like to call it barbecue. I like the whole meat experience. So I tried to pitch Jordan this idea that we pull out our El Bandito grills and we've got coals and we're cooking with gauchos and we're doing at night, we're doing brisket trim, we're making burgers.
Yeah.
We're probably shelving sausage because a sausage program here may or may not work. But the more that I started to go through that and we started talking about it, we wanted the influence of Appalachian in the sides and whatnot. But the more that I started to think about it, really people are getting into buying pits and doing this in their backyard because of Central Texas barbecue or Eastern Carolina. And it's a little difficult to go sell cinder blocks to cook whole hogs. Not a big
a cinder block.
I've cooked 100. I've cooked a lot of whole hogs, but it's a hard cook. It really has to be served together. We will do that, but I think we just went back to Central Texas influence or just Texas barbecue because it's something that you don't find here. I don't go to local Mexican restaurants and there's a Oaxacan Mexican restaurant. There's a West Coast Tijuana style. I wish that was the case.
Right.
I think we're just trying to highlight the Central Texas barbecue here, and we will probably go off.
Well, can y'all cut what I just said?
What's that? Oh,
sorry. We don't edit this at all.
As long as you put a Brunswick stew on the menu, you'll be fine.
Well, I've never liked
that.
Brunswick stew.
I don't like it either.
I can't eat it.
I told Jordan, my wife's a Georgian, and she was adamant about, you got to have Brunswick stew. I said, it's just leftover barbecue. Mm-hmm. It's leftover. What you don't cook, you throw it together and try to get rid of it. And I've had it at some of the places that people go there for Brunswick stew, and it's the most boring, and people will come after me or whatever, but it's just the most boring side part of
only if we can make it with squirrel as it was intentionally made.
So I think it was intentionally a squirrel stew, and somebody pulled the squirrel out, and
that would be a signature item if you guys do that. I can promise you.
We'd
Or,
probably sell
I
out every
keep
day.
thinking about the Texas Twinkies. You could do a Texas Twinkie of a squirrel. Probably they're about the right size.
I mean, that's regional AF right there.
Right.
We should serve moonshine with the barbecue too. Then I guess.
I feel
we
like
should have a moonshine barbecue sauce, probably.
I feel like we're gonna have like an Appalachian, like it's gonna be Texas barbecue. I think technique, but I think it's gonna be a clash of cultures in a good way. It's gonna not a clash, but the other word.
Well, I mean, I developed a palate traveling all over my previous career, and I went to restaurants that probably shouldn't have been, gone to, but I had the opportunity to go to them. So I developed this palate. And when I went to Texas, actually in 2005, I went to Louis Miller's, and that was my big aha moment.
Where's that? Where's that?
South by Southwest in Taylor, Texas, down there, not too far from you. The guy should be popping on screen number 4 here in a second. But
that place.
I went a couple guys that I worked with that worked for us, and I went to the door and opened the door, and those senses started ticking right there, and I was like, I want to be a part of this. And it was kind of like a football player wanting to be a singer, and a singer wanting to be a baseball player. Is that
right?
Immediate thought when I opened the door, I was like, I want this. And I didn't even take a bite. I just knew that place had lore, and it was going to be, it was just inspiring to walk in the door and then to smell it and see that big fan just kind of barely moving and the motor's gummed up with. And that's what I think I'd like to have here, but we're going to have to do about 50 years worth of grease work and burn some business cards. Or
I had a funny experience the first time I went there. It was in 2009 or 10. Roland was like, when you go down to culinary school, you need to go eat at Snow's and you need to go eat at Louis Mueller. So I had to drive down to Austin for something with culinary school. He's like, you need to go to Louis Mueller on your way back. Go down 79. I didn't eat barbecue at this point, didn't care about it. And I go in and there's this line of people and it's hotter than fuck in there.
It's so hot.
It was so hot. And I get to the counter and they're like, what would you like? I'm like, a slice of brisket, like lean or fatty. I'm like, I don't just brisket, And I got like 3 things and they're like, it's like $30. And I'm like, what? I had never ordered barbecue that way before.
Didn't Roland send you down there?
Yeah, he sent me down there and I'm like, God dang, I ain't going to be doing this very much. I can't afford to eat barbecue. And I had it. And when I got back to East Texas, Roland was like, well, how was it? I was like, he's like, why didn't you like it? I was like, because they had black pepper all over it. He was like, it's supposed to. I'm like, well, I guess I don't like black pepper all over everything. And what about the sausage? It all fell apart when you ate it. He's like, well, that's beef sausage. That's what it's supposed to do. I'm like, well, I guess I don't like beef sausage then. And I had never really had barbecue outside of East Texas. And it was, I guess I didn't like change, and it was outside of my wheelhouse, and it weirded me completely out that barbecue was like that down there. But then
that's how people think when they eat barbecue in East Texas.
Exactly. It was so weird to me. And of course I don't feel that way. I just had never had that before. And it was not my favorite experience, because I didn't go in with the right mindset about it. I didn't understand what to expect. And
sounds like every Californian that comes in to eat barbecue.
Right.
In Texas.
I did not care. I did not care for Central Texas barbecue at that point.
They just put plain grocery store bread on my tray.
Right.
Yeah. That's the problem with food, period. It's restaurants.
And I have been down there several times since at his store, and I have eaten plates of barbecue. I love it. And I was just weirded out that the texture of beef sausage to me for the first time was so weird. It was like, it tastes like hamburger meat inside of a tube.
I tell you what, the sausage thing, like when we first started making that was my only reference point, was going down to Central Texas and eating it at Wayne's Place and Kreitz and and so when I went back to make it, I was like, well, if it's not crumbly and if there's not like loose texture, it's not going to be authentic. And so we like worked and worked and worked to get that texture right. And then we've done that all this time. And then at some point over the last 4 or 5 years, the standard has changed for that sausage. And now like you want that really, really firm snap, and it's not crumbly, and it's really emulsified, and it's a different version of sausage than it was when we first started doing it. And it made me start to rethink, like, am I doing this right? Because nobody else's sausage looks like what we were doing. And so, we worked on it a little bit more, and I was like, maybe we need to tighten this up a little bit. Maybe we need to figure out how to get that casing packed a little bit tighter, but to me, that's a really good example of how things have evolved, or a good example of the regional differences in sausages.
Right. Like, and then I go to Kreitz for the first time later on, way later, and I had their sausage for the first time, and it made my head explode how good it was. Still to this day, I think they have the best sausage I've ever had. Both of them. And I even carried it Moberly when I first reopened until I could start making sausage for myself. And I loved it. And people were all over that sausage there. It cost an arm and a leg to get it, but it was like $300 to ship a case of it, something like that. And it just got to a point to where it just wasn't feasible.
So I'm gonna seize on that word that you just used, the evolution word. I'm gonna jump over to JD. So you started Primitive Pits to create content to teach people how to cook. But what eventually happened is the content stopped and you kept going, and now your fabrication got huge, right? Like you started making pits, but you're just now jumping back into creating content again.
Yeah, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to just show up at the shop at 10 a.m. We hired a guy. I met a guy locally who referred me to a guy. Starting off, my father-in-law said, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. So I didn't weld. I didn't fabricate. Now I could fix fences and do stuff, fix, machines. And, in the previous company, we built recording trucks. So I could do a little bit of that, but not, I was not hands-on. And I just was wanting to teach people barbecue, but I realized that the reason I got into the pits is the vessels weren't very good. In 2015, I started building them, the first one probably 5-6 years before that. They weren't very good vessels. And when I mean that, I couldn't find one. If I could have found one, I wouldn't be doing this. But I wanted to help people with, there's a theory, and I don't know what it is, where 80% of the problem is the cooking and 20% is the pit. But that's wasn't designed. And then when I got into building the pits, we got so busy. We at one point backed up 2 years. I had bad anxiety. I'd get in there to the shop around 9 o'clock, and the guys that were there would be just like, how are we going to do this? And I had entrepreneur experience. I knew how to build systems, processes. And so I put the cameras down and dug in for a while. And when I dove in, I decided, I'll just go ahead and do the rest of the products that I want to do. And we started with Workhorse about a year before it was launched. I knew the sizes I wanted to do. And the same thing, I felt the backyard pits at that time. There was nothing out there that really, I'd had 2 or 3 pits, and I always buy them, tell my wife, this is the last pit I'm ever going to buy. This is it. 6 months later, I'm like, I can't stand this thing. And I tried to look in the mirror and say, it's the cook. But at that point, about 05 and 06, I knew what I was doing. Once I went down to, Taylor and experienced that barbecue, I went home and said, I've got to learn what they're doing. Because if I can do this, my buddies that I hang out with they're going to think I'm the cat's meow. And so I put down the cameras after really getting into work, Primitive 17, 18, I locked in. I started showing up at 6, leaving at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, working on the weekends. I taught myself Adobe Illustrator. I built all the parts on an Illustrator. I built a plasma torch table. I started cutting, welding, learning all the stuff as we hired guys. 3 of the guys are still down in the shop. They still work for us. I earned a lot of respect from them. At the same time, I quit helping the cook and I quit the content. And then all of a sudden the world of content just evolved. YouTube's phenomenal. There's no barriers to entry. So I was like, okay, these guys can teach the barbecue and I'll just keep on chugging here until I can come up for air. And I went down and told Jordan was just talking about this. When I went down, you were still at Franklin. We sat there and I said, Jordan, we're going to bring back content. We're going to teach people how to cook, but I'm a no-name. You're the validation. So
you're a no-name too, though.
You're the validation because, you can come to my restaurant and eat great food and we can be sold out, packed out, lines out the doors. But I'm not on the Texas Monthly, top 50. I'm not somebody that's going to validate somebody not pouring tallow all over brisket. And all the silliness that I saw in cooking, I wanted to just grab somebody by the collar and say, just listen to him. Okay. He's cooked hundreds of thousands of proteins. And if he can do it,
anybody can.
Yeah. So yeah, we stopped making the content and that was terrible for us in theory, but we were also backed up 2 years, opened up Workhorse, ended up being backed up a year, had to figure out how to build 1,200 smokers a year. Now we build 1,700. That's not something that if you don't have experience, I had to learn to really love the things that I hated, which was, I don't mind getting up early. I get up 4:00, 5. I've always been early up, but I had to learn how to do new things. I had to learn how to look at the kerf on steel and fix any blemish of kerf when it's cutting. I had to learn how to make parts with precision where they fit, and the welders who are masters can, they're not going to complain. So I basically learned a whole new skill set in about 4 or 5 years. And,
hey, don't sleep on what you figured out about airflow too, because that's a huge point, a selling point about the crafts of a primitive pit is airflow. You had to figure that out too.
Good environment. I mean, if you get a good environment, you're giving the cook a really high probability of cooking great barbecue. If you give them a bad environment, we've used this on our podcast, but if you've ever played guitar, when you go to play guitar for the very first time and you got it as a gift or you go buy one in the local store, if you get a guitar that's a cheap made guitar with the strings and the fretboard an inch apart, you're going to play it for a couple, days, and fingers going to be bleeding and you're never going to want to play. And if you have a really good guitar and you commit to practicing, you can learn within 60 days you're playing songs in the first 2 weeks. Same thing with cooking. You just need a good environment. You need a good vessel. And Primitive is just a way to give cooks a solid vessel. And then, immediately I was like, well, the backyard guys, there's nothing out there as well. And now there's, 8 bazillion pit makers, but most of them started at a welding shop. They needed another form of revenue, and that's how they got into it. I got into it from thinking about it from the science of what's a good vessel. And that's how I ended up working 75, 80 hours a week in a metal manufacturer.
And now you have pits in some serious name places. I didn't know when we went and did the interview at Snow's, walked back in there and there's a primitive pit.
The only one of its kind. Clay and Kerry, Clay got to pick how they wanted to build it. They wanted to build a square firebox, and I tried to fight them out of that. I didn't know it. I couldn't go to sleep at night going, you're solid. But we actually built them too. We got their pit together and got it all together. It took us a week to build the firebox, got it on there, and the door was warped after we did that. So I was like, and Carrie's blowing me up. I need the pit. So we took it down to him, and we'd already started building another one. I knew we were going to have to swap it out, but yeah, we've got them in, places. We built them for Terry Black's starting out when they opened up, what was it? They started opening up, I guess, after Dallas. But, you know, I don't care. You know, we don't go chasing the Texas Monthly Top 50. I don't ever, if I see somebody, if I bump into them, I don't care about. If they want to come to us, they come to us. We just try to get people that want to open up and have a good vessel, or currently have, you know, some vessels that may be in question. There's some places all over the country where they've been cooking for a couple of years, and they're cooking with something that's, you know, maybe not going to deliver the very best product, or is a little struggle to cook on. But
you know, if you're trying to start out and you're trying to learn this, and you're going through that process, it's all about isolating variables, fixing a problem and moving on to the next one, isolating a variable, fixing the problem and moving on to the next one. And if you're working with equipment that's not cooking consistently or not cooking the way it's supposed to, it makes that process so much harder, because you don't know whether to blame your process, to blame the pit and the way it's tuned, or whatever it is. You know, so if you can start off with something that, you know, this is tuned right, it's going to cook well, then you know it's really just about like your technique and how much attention you're paying to it, and the timing and all those other little details. You don't have to worry about the equipment itself.
yeah, Justin, it's funny you say that, because as soon as we started building pits about 3 or 4 years later, one of the huge things that I started hearing from people, Terry Blacks, all these guys, is the wood sources. So now I'm starting to think, okay, how can we help? So we went down and leased some land. Kerry introduced me to somebody down in Lexington. We leased the property for 3 or 4 years, because, you know, you can have a great vessel, you can have some great cooks, but then if your wood guy shows up and you got wet wood on a Thursday, and it's just, the tree just got, you know, hit yesterday in a storm, it's now you've got these splits, same problem. You got a variable that's going to be always dealing with constants. And, you know, we dove into the wood thing based upon that whole, you know, my mantra of going after the cooks in the restaurants and giving them stability.
And I got you out of it.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so wait a second. I didn't even know about that. You had a wood lot?
Yeah, American Cookwood. We were my oldest boy and me, we were just, he always said, Dad, can we make money doing this? I was like, heck no, we can't make this. You really want to test somebody out and make sure that they're humble as they say they are. And now there's an attraction to pit. There's guys that are building pits that compete with us at Primitive that are selling it for 3 times the cost of what we sell a pit for. I could easily go up. I mean, we've got these people behind this wall here that are like, you need to double your prices. Jordan said it.
I say it every day.
I want easy access to entry. And for wood, I was like, man. So I got on the phone with Mike or Mark Black, and I went down and met with them. They're like, man, we're hurting in Dallas. We're hurting, you know, just because they didn't have a stability of wood. And, you know, Justin, you probably have had some good experiences and some bad experiences, but that's, I just wrapped my head around it and said, you know what, we can really help. But it's hard work. It was ridiculously unrewarding, but I loved it. I loved to take a tree, let it dry properly for a year, cut the splits up, get them seasoned, and deliver wood to somebody that I knew it was bulletproof.
I literally hate every single one of those things.
Hate what?
Every single thing you just said. Cutting trees down, letting them wait, and then splitting them.
We've got 200 cords sitting back there behind us out in the woods that we've been drying, and it's just, it's a control freak thing that I have that's really horrible. I just want to be in control of those variables that Justin's talking about, because if you got a problem and you solve it, and then 2 weeks later it's sitting there staring in your face, I'm ready to lose my mind.
And then you got to check the hook while your DJ revolves it.
Nick, I don't know if you know this, but when I worked at Stanley's in 13 to 15, during that stint, we were using pecan, and I hated pecan so much. I used to buy post oak with my own money and hide it in the wood yard and cook beef ribs with it, and you never knew.
He's told me that.
And you're like, God, these are good. I'm like, yeah, pecan all the way.
Pecan.
I did. I forgot Jesus was the wood guy back then. And I was like, you ever get post hook? He goes, yeah. I was like, well, bring it here and I'm going to hide it over here. And we had a hiding spot. It's
not the only time you've done that.
No.
Jordan, I've got a question for you. You've been in a role where your work has been very visible and critically judged.
Yeah.
And you've been in a role, kind of that you're in now where it's really more kind of behind the scenes, I guess a little bit in terms of like the work you're doing with kids and stuff like that. You obviously have self-gratification when you do a good job, but what have you noticed as the difference? I mean, what's the difference between doing your work, feeling like you've done a good job versus being in the restaurant and doing that and feeling like you've done a good job and then getting the critical feedback, good or bad? Is there a difference? Is one better for you than the other?
I really enjoy not doing day-to-day barbecue. That is the greatest gratification it's ever. You know it. Both of y'all know it. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but I like to make the people better who do want to do it on a day-to-day basis. You're
a great teacher, man.
Thank you. That's what
we brought him up here to do.
I feel like I shine is like helping people. I'm people's cheerleaders. Like
if you need to change your dump truck air brakes, he could teach you the way because he doesn't learn it. He learns it to teach it, which is everything he does. I went somewhere the other day and you said, don't worry, I can train him. And I'm like, well, I can't. I'm horrible. He's great.
I have a weird analytical way about processes of everything I do down there in that shop. Cause I work in that shop all the time and I'm down there. I am like, it's got to be a process. And I figure out, I'll do it every day until I figure out the best way to do it, whether right or wrong. I mean, that's what I love. That's where I get the happiest is when I help people with their aha moment of, wow, I did not understand how to cook this, but you showed me a way, and I show them 5 different ways to do it. I don't want you to know one way to cook a brisket because when you approach it every day, you're a different brisket cook every time you clock in because you don't know what the weather, the wood, the briskets are holding for you. And I always reference brisket, but I've spent so much time doing that. So I like to give people all the tools that they need to make the decisions they need because all a brisket cook is a series of decisions. Every time it's time to do something, you have to weigh all your decisions and steer the ship which way it needs to go without an atlas. And you're just reading the weather and every known variable and process of elimination. You just got to weigh all your options. I teach people, like, why are you over there picking up wood like that? They ask me. I'm like, because I am very particular about which pieces of wood are going in during which part of the cook. And I start teaching people that kind of stuff. And I start making them more in tune with the cook. Cause I'm a very, what do you always call it? Intuitive cook. And
instinctual.
I'm an instinctual cook. And that's the way I teach people.
But it's hard for people to, there's no curriculum for instinctual. There's a philosophy of instinctual that's more, the cooking is something that becomes all 5 senses involved. Now you just need to know what decisions you need to make, at least to steer you across a brisket cook or whatever you're cooking.
I like to work with people for a long time because when you get to work with somebody just for a few days, you're only touching the very tip of the iceberg of teaching somebody barbecue. But when you get to work with them 6 months and you'll be like, remember today how we're doing this, it's coming back to us. I promise you. And then the next day and the next few weeks, it's completely different. And then it comes back and then you're back. Oh, I remember this. This is a familiarity. And I know now because I've cooked this way that when this happens, I should be going this direction because we've seen it and I've seen that it can work. And I show people how to mess up and get themselves out of it. Like that's where I want to be. I don't really care for the spotlight. thing
Well,
anymore.
The funny thing is you asked earlier when Jordan and I met in Austin in that hotel in 22 or 21, I can't remember.
Man,
It was a while back. I laid out what I really wanted to do, utilizing Jordan. One of them is I like the guy. He's easy to like. He's funny. I don't have a sense of humor. He comes here and brings a sense of humor. I'm 100 miles an hour, business as usual. I have to stop now and have joke time, or I have to get all his puns or whatever. But
we do have to have joke time.
I wanted him to come up and help us start the restaurant and train cooks because I don't train. I get frustrated. I'm working with somebody. I'm doing it. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I'm not a good trainer. And I admit that. It's a flaw. But
it's a game of patience.
I'm not going to change because I worked in an industry for, it's almost 25 years where, literally I was touching the knobs and nobody could touch them because I had full control of everything. I just needed support.
Right.
And then I supported people, when I get the restaurant, I'm now learning and supporting others, and I'm a really good employee. But I wanted Jordan to come here and train employees in the pit room because that's a great skill set. But we have this thing called BBQ XO, which is your strategy for live fire cooking. We launched it in 19. We taught some classes because we had so many people wanting classes that needed classes to open up a restaurant. And I didn't want to sell them a pit and have the performance of a pit be on a bad cook. So I said, Jordan, we're going to bring BBQ XO back and you're going to help us teach. And right when he got here, we sent him down to a real
before I got here.
Yeah. Posh golf course that was owned by these guys that he's cooking for Tiger Woods' son. I think his first week there.
I cooked some ribs and stuff.
But he's teaching trained chefs this, playbook on how to get barbecue going versus being a culinary expert. And that was really the main purpose of coming down here to help train cooks and then immediately move into the classes. But, the last year he's gotten us a great idea what goes on in the metal shop, not planned. I didn't want to bring him up here and have him spend a year where I didn't want him to burn out, leave and not fulfill the goals. But we've had some challenges with the restaurant.
Trout fishing's helping.
He's got activities he does, plays disc golf, trout fish. But at the end of the day, I really want BBQ XO to be a thing. But we're going to have classes here where people travel here. They spend, 4 nights, 5 days. They get trained on how to open up a restaurant so they can go back and have a really good grasp of what they may not learn what they need to do exactly, but they're going to learn what needs to happen. And, that was a great skill set that Jordan had. That was part of the reason I brought him here. And Jordan, that's where he shines, or Justin, that's where he shines. I'll answer it for him. You put him in a room with cooks and you can't put that on paper. You can't put it into a PDF. It's not a curriculum. Okay, your step one, let's go into it. Trimming briskets, everything, making a barbecue menu.
Well, you got to study the person that you're teaching. Whenever I'm teaching people, I get to know them.
I'd like to know what you think about me on that matter.
And we'll get into that. But I've trained a lot of people, and then I get to know them and talking to them, and I study people and the way they work and stuff. And then you start seeing things that work well with their style. And I think every case is different for every cook. I can make that person cook the way I want them to, but I make it comfortable for them to make it. It's not manipulation. It's just, I work well to the way they're suited instead of forcing people to do things a certain way. You make them comfortable and you get them to get the results that you need.
And I weed out all the people that he doesn't need to teach. So the people that want to be Instagram famous, want to be rich, entrepreneurs that want to be uber wealthy, they just want to open, they want to invest in the barbecue restaurant.
Wrong industry.
I like the people who come hungry and they stay hungry.
Right.
Well, I want to shine some spotlight on another perspective that Jordan has, because we're talking about cooking barbecue right now. And yes, Jordan's has tens of thousands of hours in a pit house, But Jordan is also a classically trained chef. And so you can approach cooking food from so many different angles. It's not just about the pit house. You understand food deeply from a lot of different perspectives.
No, it's like I'm out of practice. Like I was trying to remember the mother sauces the other day in a podcast, and I couldn't even remember them. I'm like, dude.
But if you had to make them, I feel confident you could get there.
I do understand. I understand ingredients. I appreciate that, Nick. I'm so out of practice.
I told him I wanted to go to chef school, and his reaction to that was, "You don't have to. I'll teach you. You can go to chef school with me."
Yeah, just listen.
I would love to know how sugars and acids and all that. Well, I just have a great palate, and I got to figure out. I got to find somebody that can.
People talk so much crap about culinary school, like, "Oh, it's dumb. You don't need to go." It's what you make of it. I went. I was laser focused. I was older. I was 27, I think, when I went. I got the drugs and all that, and drinking, most of the drinking, not all, not even close to all the drinking out by then. But I went in there laser focused, and I learned the techniques. And those techniques in French cooking made me. It gave me my philosophy of how I cook barbecue, and it was all technique based. And that French cooking, all those techniques going to be applied to every type of food on earth.
Yeah, because the French,
they invented a cooking.
I haven't been to a good French restaurant in my life. No,
he's like, French food's bad. I'm like, well, you've not.
They know how to teach.
Their technique or
their pastries are outstanding.
Yeah, they're second to none with technique. And I went and focused on technique, and then I never wanted to be in barbecue, and I was a chef, and I was miserable. And Nick, hey, you want to come be my chef? And I'm like, absolutely. You need to come do a working interview. And I had to make a menu that another chef created out of Super One. We went down to Super One. Remember that? We bought all those ingredients, and I had to make another dude's menu. And then I'm like, okay, I'm hired. And they're like, well, we're still talking about it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be forever. And I went there swear to God, only to be a chef that used ingredients of barbecue to make chef-driven stuff. Is that not the truth?
Yeah, and we never did any of it.
Well, never did I ever want to cook barbecue.
We went down that road
2 months later.
Nick, we sat for 4 months around here talking about how we're going to use barbecue as an ingredient. We're going to make tacos. We're going to make empanadas. We're going to do all this stuff across the board. And that died as well. Yeah, are either one of you guys trained chefs?
No.
Or school? And
my dad was.
His dad was.
But I mean, that doesn't mean shit, really. Because he never taught me anything. I asked him tons of times, especially around the holidays.
One of the most nerve-wracking, of all the things that I've experienced in my life, and I've had some nerve-wracking moments, previous career. The most nerve-wracking experience I've ever had is the first week in my restaurant. One of my guys hands me an onion and says, cut these. I need them ASAP. And then proceeded to follow me back there and watch me cut onions. And I'm sitting there going, stop watching me. He's like, just cut them. I want to make sure you're cutting them to the right, to our spec.
You're like, this is my restaurant.
And I started going in there every day and prepping for the next year. Yeah. I was prepping.
Right.
So I could work the knife. He made fun of me because I'm using a Costco $11 knife.
And you're left-handed.
And I'm trimming meat, and I'm going after it kind of, I'm left-handed, but he taught me a lot. And,
you're pretty good with a knife. I've seen you.
I can make something, but it's just in production, like trimming briskets. Let somebody else do it. I can trim them.
I love that story. That just happened to me last year. Me and Joe Zavala did an event, and we were doing something, and he's like, here, dude, this is your thing. He's like, you cut the brisket. And I was like, no. No, they don't let me cut brisket. I'm terrible at it. I was like, I'll cut ribs all day, but Joe, you don't want me cutting brisket, man.
If I had a nickel for every time you're like, hey, can you cut this tray real quick? I'll be up there. The guys like, why? And you're like, just come down. You're the one I want to do it. I'm like, okay, I'll come do it. I never knew you couldn't do it.
I mean, I can. It's been a long time.
No, I understand.
And I'm not super great at it.
Well, cutting brisket on the line is actually a confidence builder because once you get it down, you can, you can really, you can get confidence in that. But as far as vegetables and prepping, I've forcefully put myself in our kitchen with our prep girl, and she would always look over and tell me, no, don't do that. And I thought, okay, how do you do it? Cutting tomatoes, cutting everything, it just became something where I'm like, I'm going to be in the conversation with these guys. I better know how to do it.
Yeah.
Nick and I we share a love for Luby's Cafeteria.
Like, oh my God, I love Luby's.
I mean, it's constant.
And Justin, when I came and ate at your place at the farmer's market with, I think Chase Colston and Shaw.
Okay.
When I ate there and y'all had all these different sides to choose from, I feel like there was like collard greens and, what else did y'all have? I'd never had a barbecue experience where there was so many amazing sides like that were different than just potato salad, coleslaw. And it was more chef driven. And I remember it's like, dude, this is different.
It's a great concept. If you can dial it in,
it was so good.
A lot of food.
Like, I just I'm not the biggest meat eater. Like, I would rather eat, go the slow bone and just eat all their sides and their fried chicken.
I love different textures, different flavors, different sauces. Like the more variety, I love that. Like if I'm going out to eat, that's what I enjoy, that type of eating more than anything.
And then you brought us out a deep fried rib. That was amazing. That was when you were messing with it. Dude, that was so long ago.
Well, it's going into the cultures of where people are cooking stuff that's
14
surrounded by what they're in culturally.
But y'all were on the cutting edge of doing barbecue. I don't know if it was chef driven, but or I guess it is chef driven. It's more of the craft barbecue before craft barbecue was craft barbecue.
You opened up at Pecan Lodge in 15?
2010.
10. Oh, 10. Because I went in there in 15, or one of my first trips down there was 15, because I was a delivery boy, and you didn't have anywhere to park my trailer, but that's okay. Went to your pit house, and your guy kicked me out. I was there going, what in the world is going on in here? It was like the big black stacks going up through the...
that was all the funky stuff we had to do to meet the code for the city of Dallas.
What was that building of some type of foundry, or what?
You're talking about the one in Deep Ellum, the restaurant.
High ceiling.
It used to be a club. It was a 2-story club.
Okay.
And actually above the kitchen, if you pulled back the drop ceiling in the kitchen, that was where all the VIP rooms were. And so when we looked at the building, we toured all that kind of stuff, and there was thought of maybe we could do something up there, or what. Anyway, it just kind of got covered up. But the smokehouse didn't exist. That was an addition that we added. And my original thought was just to have the entire thing naturally vented like a chicken house or something like that. And we tried to get that, through, and they wouldn't allow us to do it, and so we ended up having to literally put vent fans on the ceiling, and instead of fabricating a hood that went over all of the pits,
the whole room's
we ran those 8-inch HVAC pipes, down to the tops of the smokestack.
I remember that. And it had a cone on the bottom of it.
It's the weirdest looking thing
you look like
seen.
Robot arms.
On that
dude, and let me trying to get somebody to clean those things we've had to cut access panels into them and all kinds of stuff. And it's so complex now that it would be too expensive to replace it, but it's the worst design ever.
The one at the farmer's market, was it inside a little bitty screened in shack?
Yeah. We started when we first started cooking there. we didn't even have the pit enclosed in anything. It was just literally right outside the back door. But there was another vendor there that complained about it. And then we had to build that enclosure in order to do that. Mm-hmm.
It was the most unique pit I've ever seen.
What's that?
I remember it just being the most unique setup. It's like the fire box was in the center in the back, and then you had like little 3 or 4 inch stacks that went up, and then you had the little vent that you put on the back of a dryer, and it had like a cone or something, and the smoke went up through it. And I was like, this is different. I liked it. It was neat.
We just talked about this not long ago because I had asked Justin, dude, where did these pits come from? Who builds these? And he's like, some oil field guy right out in Abilene, and
just like it.
They're not even there anymore. And like you're having to basically copy that and reproduce it on your own because it's a one of a kind thing.
Yeah, the first pit we ever had is a pit I bought from him, and it was on a trailer. And we started with that. And then as it grew, we had to modify and scale that design from the trailer style pit to a freestanding pit that would fit in the smokehouse. And so it's evolved a little bit over time, but the principle of it has remained the same. I felt like I could get a more even temperature if I had the pit centered on the back of it and brought the smoke in equally on all parts of it, than starting it on one side and drawing it all the way across the entire length of the pit. And that was the whole premise behind the whole thing.
I see a partnership.
Well, it works.
I don't know. I'd love to show you all the inside of the pit sometime.
The primitive pecan signature model.
Well, I pulled my truck and the trailer up to the side street. If I remember, there's either 2 doors or a garage bay door.
2 doors. Yeah, 2 big doors.
And I walked in there, and the guy's like, "Hey, you can't be in here." And I was like, "Just a second."
Just a little bit.
And it reminded me of the Bewleys, the whole setup, everything. All I saw was steel and just pipes, and I was like, I couldn't get it. I didn't get in there long enough to figure out what was going on, but I was intrigued. And then I asked the lady up at the front when I was ordering, I was like, "You go back there? Oh, not just maybe a little bit." But you had to line out the door.
Yeah,
we had on the patio, and then I tried to sneak back around, and
we had to change our cooking process a lot, because when we turned the fans on, it's drawing that air out. Like it's not a passive thing. And so we had to. That took a little while to figure that out.
Jordan loves fans.
I hate them. I won't allow anybody to turn one on in a.
We're over here, 4,500 primitive pits deep, downtown Baltimore, Manhattan, and Arlington were the most difficult, challenges for us. Arlington was tough.
Sucks.
Hurtado wouldn't be open if I spent a lot of time with the fire marshal and the health department.
Bewley had a lot of problems too when they opened up that Texas Ranger, whatever it was, that second, whatever that. It's like a live place.
Texas Live, like the news.
They had put some Bewleys in there, and I remember him saying he had to run those pipes up like 15 story. I don't know. It was something crazy.
The guys from Lockhart or from Hurtado, or from Lockhart Smokehouse?
Lockhart, I think.
Okay,
I think it was Jill and them, right? Yeah.
Well,
Wayne?
Hey, Wayne. We didn't anticipate this, but we're up here in the hillbilly sector of the world. There's 20,000 people in the county. We go to build this restaurant, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, we've done enough on this campus. They're just going to roll over." We're having to build a freaking water treatment facility, $150,000. So I'm fighting the state right now.
For what?
In
Why?
the legal world.
That's why we don't have a restaurant.
That's why we don't have a restaurant.
Because of
they want us to put in a unit that our septic tanks. We're on septic. Drop in, clean the water before it gets to the leaching field.
Oh, you're talking about like from the drainage of the in the pit room and stuff.
Guess what? It all started March the 4th, right?
That's it.
It went into effect.
I applied September. For this permit, thinking the restaurant would be open in January, February. And we're at a pause right now until the state. We actually went and met with the health inspector here locally last week. Jordan and I did. And I said, you know what the problem is? The problem is you guys don't know what you want because you don't know the reaction of what this does. And I can clean these pits and put everything in that recycling bin or the trash can, and you'll see zero residual. You can go to any restaurant. They'll have more, this BOD, they call it, bio, whatever, from the grease than we will. But you got to prove it. Yeah. And so we have to open up for a year and test, or basically that's, of all the places. And I was sitting here thinking,
you think, especially kind of out of the city and everything.
We're like 2.5 hours, 3 hours from Atlanta. We're like, you walk out and they're filming Deliverance 2 right across the mountain here. I mean, it's like, this is the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And
I asked the health inspector, I said, do you think we will open up this restaurant before my 8-year-old graduates high school? I need to know.
He couldn't answer.
I need to make some arrangements,
But I mean, there's ways around it. We can work around it, but I'm trying to keep everything civil. And I've hired an engineer. They've been working since the beginning of the year. But of all the problems that you could have,
we could seriously, like the 5 of us, split up in America and go teach health departments what Texas barbecue is and from the health standards, like how it is okay to open these restaurants. And
we've got a pit on top of the Apple store in Manhattan. We can do stuff here in Cleveland.
Like it's like they have no idea. They thought this is no shit. They thought we were hard piping the barbecue pits into the grease trap. They were going to drain into it.
And they still think that, but we went to them, we're getting off course here, but I went to them with Jordan and said, hey, look, let us build an SOP for you guys. Let us train you, the state of Georgia, and maybe you can train the nation if it's properly cleaned. And their response was, let's go to some local barbecue joints and we'll show you how they clean their pit. And I said, well, we don't care about the health code. We started this from the fire standpoint. If you don't clean your pit, you're going to burn your place down. And this is almost perfect timing. Wayne joins us. But I mean, you're going to end up with a problem. So, a year later we said, oh no, also it's a great situation for the health department to say, this is the way you properly scrape it out, put it in the recycle bin, put everything that goes on a tray, put paper on it so you can throw it away. You have very little. So that's the holdup. And that's been holding us up since March or end of February.
Hey,
you're not bribing the right people, dudes. That's how you get shit done.
$500 and tell them to look the other way.
Right.
It's going to cost probably more than $500 if they're
right.
If they're saying it's going to be $150,000 for a water treatment. So they may want a new Harley or some bullshit. So just know.
Now they said you've got to go find somebody that's on a septic that you can measure. We've got people with 6, 8 pits. We got a guy in Australia that's got 10 up. And they want to measure the water from that place. And I'm like,
plus 3 unicorns.
Yeah.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Dude.
But if I had 50 years left in the tank, I'd probably go build them. I'd probably go make a living selling the federal government and state governments some SOPs on how to use these pits if they're going to continue to be around. Because you got to know how to clean them. You got to know how to cook on them, but you got to know how to clean them. And I've walked into a restaurant about 4 years ago, met with a customer, looked at his pits, and I was like, you don't clean these, you're going to catch, this place is going to burn down. His place burnt down that day, that night.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, that's one thing that I think, people talk about opening barbecue joints all the time. And this is one of those things that people who have that dream probably don't think about.
Right.
How to deal with the health department, because barbecue does not fit into their square box of
it's the Wild
health
West.
Department rules. Not only because of things like this of how you have to clean your apparatus, but our process. How this chicken is pink. It's not cooked. No, it's a smoke ring. We all know that. It's like all of these things. Right now at Stanley's, we just got reamed last week because we have a minor league team coming to Tyler to play at the ballpark, 20 games this summer. they wanted us to do the concession stand at Mike Carter Field. Well, our rules don't allow a temporary permit for longer than 14 days or whatever. So in order to accommodate their schedule, I had to fill out a permit that's basically the same exact permit as if I were opening a brand new brick and mortar restaurant at the baseball field to sell nachos and hot dogs. And we had to have plans, and we had to have, architectural renderings, and we had to get a CO, and we had to, I mean, guys.
And we all know how big of a hurry Smith County gets, and took us 7 months to build a walk-in.
And for everyone out there who's like has the dream of opening a barbecue joint or a restaurant, there's just so much more. I mean, so many horror
your partner.
Yeah.
Well, this is just how far behind they are on barbecue. They don't have any knowledge. Well, they're not far behind. Here's the reason.
We had to teach them. You had to teach them.
My help. Yeah, we did. We actually did when we were making the sausage room. But at Moberly, I had just pulled briskets off, and the health inspector came in, and they were resting, and they were like 187 degrees. And she said, "You can't rest your briskets that way. You're going to throw them away." What? And I said, "I swear to God on my life, if you throw one of those briskets away, I will move this MFer 1 foot outside the county line, and I will reopen it, and I will take all that tourism that I'm bringing into this town, and all that money will go to the next county." Well, you can't do that. I said, "Well, get your supervisor on the phone." I'd love to talk to him about it. Went through the whole rigmarole with him. He's like, "Well, you just can't rest food like that." I was like, "Make me." It is in temp. Everything is perfectly fine.
Right.
Show me in your book.
And it's wrapped, and it's a single muscle, so it's not a composite. So, exactly. I mean, how are you going to get shit inside of there? Bacteria is dead, right?
It's been cooking for 15
it's still
24 hours.
87 degrees.
I cooked briskets for 24 hours. Like, there ain't nothing alive inside that brisket.
It makes no sense. They're hypocritical to their own fucking regulations because they don't understand their own regulations.
Guess
if it doesn't fit the line, if it doesn't fit that line item in the way that it's described, then it doesn't apply.
Yeah.
I had a place in Baltimore. The fire marshal gets on the phone, one of the assistant fire marshals, and he said, "You built these guys a couple thousands. The stack coming out of the roof, it needs a spark arrestor." And I just paused. I gave him 30 seconds on his own just to sit there and hear the retardedness of. I said, "You want a spark arrestor when the firebox is 20 feet, down 20 feet, over 20 feet?" And I said, if a spark were to make it to the stack, I need to come.
Well,
figure out something, with you, because right now there's no.
Spencer
sparks.
did it one time at Moberly.
Don't say that on public radio. I thought it'd be very difficult. We put a spark arrestor up there. How would a spark travel through 25 briskets?
This is a vertical flow. It wouldn't have done it on that, but
we did it. We put spark arrestors on there.
That was part 1, and you really don't want to miss what's coming in part 2 with Jordan and Jimmy on the Smokeless Podcast.
And I can't imagine how you deal with it, Wayne. You have an extreme torch to carry.
No one truly understands the amount of glass and fire that I've had to walk through since coming back and doing this.
What was the breaking point for you at that moment in time?
It was terrible. I drank all the time, and I was asked, "Can you please not drink when you go to that festival?" And I said, "Sure, you got it." And the first thing I did when I got down there was started drinking, and I was called, and they could hear it in my voice.